Hello, my name is Jessica, and I'm working as a project manager in Ra Atoll. I've been there for the last 3 years, looking at juvenile manta rays. So I'm really excited to share this research with you all. I think it's going to be quite new. We hear a lot about adult manta rays all the time. So hopefully throughout the presentation, you'll be inspired to love juveniles as much as I do. So I'm going to start with a competition I won recently, which was a Twitter competition. I've never done Twitter in my life, but it's through my university. I'm a student at the University of Exeter. And I think it pretty much sums up the entire Maldives, where these natural animals have to put up with what we're doing in the tourism industry by developing the islands, and they have to adapt to what we're doing. So would you believe it that animals are giving birth right on the doorstep of a 5-star resort? Yeah, it's happening, and it's happening all around the Maldives. What I'm going to talk about with Mamago, it's not the only nursery site in the Maldives. It's just the one that we've studied for the longest time and the one we have the most data on. So to start off, a bit about the reproduction of manta rays. Females typically become sexually mature at about 15 years old. That's 15 years this animal has to survive and grow up with threats that they face on a daily basis before they can even give back to their own population. And although we know we have the world's largest population in the Maldives, that's an incredibly slow reproductive rate, and it's something we should all consider. They only give birth to one pup at a time. They can develop twins in the embryo, but typically one wouldn't make it. That means only one will survive, and it's a 12.5-month gestation period. They do give birth to live young. It's a lot of energy for that female. So she would wait typically 5 to 7 years in the Maldives before doing that again. Different countries do vary, but that's what we found with our research here. Overall, this makes them incredibly vulnerable to exploitation, overfishing. Of course, overfishing isn't something we face here, but it is something we face worldwide. So our research into the younger stages of their life will help with the overall protection of these animals. At least we hope it will. So this is a pregnant female. This manta is called Mai. She was actually the first manta I encountered in Ra Atoll back in 2019. She wasn't pregnant at the time, but last year she was, and I last saw her on Christmas Day, 25th of December. She was about to birth. I've never seen such a heavily pregnant female. As you can see, her back is bulging, but also her belly. And very strangely, her pelvic fins also tended to split. We have not seen a birth in the wild. It's never been recorded. I would love to be the one to film it. However, I do have photos of a live birth. Unfortunately, the baby was aborted, so the images are not very nice, but it does show you how they sit in the womb. They're all folded up, and when they do give birth, they are fully independent. So from day one, this little baby manta has to open its pectoral fins, swim around, figure out how to feed, how to clean, all by itself. So Mai, the one that was pregnant, she disappeared for a month. She showed up exactly a month later, 25th of January. No pregnancy, completely flat, but she did have a fresh mating scar, which is something we also typically see with females, that they mate after giving birth. We then had, at the same time, a little baby pup show up, and I cannot scientifically say that it's hers, but we pretend it is. So our study site is Mamago. It is in the southwest corner of Ra Atoll. We are in the northern province, but we have an incredibly large lagoon. So this is why I'm saying it's not the only nursery site that we could have in the Maldives. We know there's juveniles in other areas, like the Gura Lagoon in South Ari, I think it's Reefy Lagoon in Bar Atoll. There are juveniles around. It's just we've been based here for 4 years collecting data, so we go out on a daily basis to see what's going on. Within the lagoon, we've got 6 survey sites. The lagoon is quite far from the island. It expands quite at a good distance, and you'll see later where they feed within that area. So nursery sites, how do we classify it? Well, there's quite a strict criteria. And that is developed by an author, Hupala 2007, and it classifies all elasmobranch species And you have to follow the 3 criteria. So 1, do they have a higher juvenile density than is normal elsewhere? 2, does the area contain individual juveniles for extended periods? And 3, is it repeatedly used by juveniles over time? In the Maldives, we have yet to identify an official nursery site for manta rays. So that is my overall aim of this research, and it's incredibly exciting if the data shows what we want it to show. I'm still in the preliminary stages of my research, so the paper should be coming out in the following year. But what I'm showing you today is what we've found so far. There are other nursery sites around the world. The first one being the Florida Garden Bank, which is near the Gulf of Mexico, southern coast of Florida, and then very recently in Raja Ampat's Wayag Lagoon, where they tagged several juvenile manta rays to learn more about them there. But these do vary. So some of these are oceanic mantas. So this is one of the first times we're really studying such a juvenile area. So that's Mai with little baby Coco in front of her. Now, juveniles are incredibly inquisitive when you swim with them. They start off terrified. You know for sure you're the only human they've ever seen, the way they behave around you. And then all of a sudden, they're your best friend and you see them every day. And they come to you, they follow you, they slip down in front of you. So they are amazing animals. And as they grow, they get more confident, which is why Coco's stepping in the way of Mai and following her around. They start to learn from each other. So how do we collect our data? We have to go out. We have to go out on the boat. We go out 6 days a week. And we tend to target the morning and the evening, late afternoon time. We found that in Mamago, the sightings peak in the early morning, just after high tide, but also around sunset. I'm not sure why the sunset is, maybe it's to do with the lighting, but it's a great time for us because the tourism isn't out, so we can really get some quality time with the individuals. We've been using drones to help with the search. Mamago is a big area, so with the help of drone technology, we are getting much further with our research. We collect lots of survey variables, but the primary thing we're collecting is photographic identification. Each individual has a unique pattern on its belly. And with juveniles, it's really important to get the lower end of them as well, because we need to see if they are a little boy or a little girl. This is me and Coco. So he's pretty small, and he's got very tiny claspers, as you can see in the red circle. The other method we use is photogrammetry. This is a method of 2 calibrated GoPros. We're using this method in different places in the Maldives, currently in Lamu and also in Bar. And we did an expedition recently to the very north of the Maldives to measure a lot of the mantas up there as well. But we've tried with different approaches. What's the best way to measure a manta using this technique? And we found that by doing it from behind them, you get the most accurate measurement. So when a manta puts its wings flat, you can take one point to the next point. If you're going from above, they tend to bend their wings and you can't really see in the program. We've also been deploying remote underwater videos. These are just GoPros attached to weighted devices, and we deploy them at cleaning stations within Mamago to monitor the cleaning activity without having to hang around. I think our captain would probably kill us. So the data is collected for us by these little cameras. And what we found is that typically the mantas, when they stop feeding, they pretty much within 10-15 minutes, they all head to the cleaning station or they leave the lagoon. So I'll tell you a bit more about the results now. So from our data collection 2019 to 2022, we have seen 2,953 sightings of reef manta rays, and that's 360 individuals. So those 360 individuals have all been recorded within Mamago, and 60% of them are juveniles. So it's not just used by juveniles, it's a really key feeding site for adults as well during the northeast monsoon. But what's interesting about this graph is that the juvenile to adult ratio differs between the sexes. So if you look at the light blue section, you've got a larger amount of juvenile females, but only 33 adult females. When you look at the dark blue and you look at the adult males, there's a much larger proportion of adult males. So this goes along the theory that we have that adult males are affiliated with their nursery grounds. So the young of years, we've had 19 young of years since we've been starting. Young of year means less than 1 year old. That graph looks very colorful, but basically the more colorful the line, the more times they've been sighted over the years. So they've been seen across all 4 years. And of course, the later you get along the chart, they are the individuals that were born in 2021 or 2020. They were seen in both years, or the last 2, they were only seen in 2022 because they were born that year. The feeding locations, this is the main area where they typically feed. So it is within the region of the resort, that's more heavier further away. The 2 arrows show the 2 cleaning stations that we've identified. The SVP measurements, so this is the where Mamago really stands out. The size of Mamago mantas is significantly smaller by using this method. We have found compared to the other areas where we're collecting data on manta measurements. The turquoise green and the longer bars, those are both Mamago. One side is female, one side is male. So you can see compared to the other areas of the Maldives, just how small the mantas are. Again, kind of confirming that we're looking at a nursery location, Coco being the smallest one ever measured at 1.6 meters. The cleaning stations, we've collected a lot of data, a lot of hours of footage, but 62% of those videos had mantas present. And we've managed to capture a lot of IDs from those videos, and 90 individuals using the cleaning stations within Mamago. We have noticed that adult females clean longer than juveniles, compared to adult males, but all of them clean much longer compared to juveniles. So juveniles tend to hotspot clean. They stop for a couple of, they clean for much less time. So does Mamago fit the criteria? We think yes. My data and the proper analysis will show this, so keep in out for the news next year. But of all the sites within Ra Atoll, there is a definite significant leading towards the juveniles that are seen within Mamago. Second criteria is, does it contain individuals over extended periods of time? Again, the answer is yes. They are seen over consecutive years. So from 1 year to the next, we see the same individuals with 40 of them on all 4 years. The juveniles that are seen across consecutive months is also pretty high, with just under 50% of them being seen throughout December, January, February, March, and April. Is the area repeatedly used by them over time? Again, yes, we've seen 63% of them more than 1 time, and 10% of them more than 30 times, which those numbers don't seem quite high, but these are juveniles, so it just shows that they're using the area quite often. And the threats that they're facing is unfortunately increasing tourism. So I've been there since 2019, I arrived. I would say that no one really knew about the area, but with a resort setting up, it's become very popular. It's now the #1 place to visit during the Northeast monsoon. So resorts from Bar, local islands from Bar, and all the resorts in Ra are all coming to Mamago to swim with these mantas. Now the photos are not taken from Mamago. It just goes to show what an unprotected area can do, and that's what we would really like to prevent. I have seen 1 manta with a boat strike injury so far. She's a little juvenile from 2019, and we would really like to prevent that. We have proposed, and we're working with EPA and the Ministry of Environment to protect Mamago. It's in the works, so hopefully it's going to get approved, and we're also applying for OECM application around the resort, and we will use that management plan to help the EPA create a management plan for Mamago as well. The reason it extends to Femfushi is that we have seen the juveniles moving across to Femfushi Lagoon this year. It's quite a difficult area for us to study and enter because of the reef, so I don't have a full amount of data to share with you. I just know that the same individuals are using the area. So protecting the area is of the utmost importance. Increased tourism means sometimes we have 10 boats in the lagoon trying to swim with a baby manta. We have 50 snorkelers with chasing after them. So code of conduct implementation is very, very important. My research will also be looking at drone footage and how manta rays interact with boats, but that's still in the very preliminary stages. And we'd like to know with future studies of Mamago how long those individuals are really staying there and whether they are coming back once they've left. So here are the references, and thank you for listening. And if you do have any questions, please let me know, or you can email myself or Neve as well.